What if Ahsoka brought Anakin back to the light on Malacore, Part 2? When they get back to the Phoenix cell, they find out they are already acting on the information Anakin had given them. Ahsoka decided to take a more active role in the rebellion, joining Anakin as a pilot. Even though they needed someone to manage intelligence, Ahsoka had already set up a network so almost anyone could take her place. However, since the Resistance lacked skilled pilots, and both she and Anakin were not only terrific pilots, but had years of experience, she felt this was where she was needed more at this time. However, instead of leading squadrons, they instead flew solo, only having each other. This was Ahsoka's idea, as she remembered how during the war, not even clone pilots could keep up with them. Average people wouldn't stand a chance, and they would either be killed following them, or she and Anakin would have to hold back for them. They made runs against several Imperial fleets and targets, but the primary goal was locating the result of Project Stardust, the Death Star as it was called. Anakin didn't know much about it, just of its existence and purpose, but they both knew that destroying it was of the highest priority. However, they didn't have much luck finding it, though they were still devastatingly effective wherever they went. Imperial forces soon began to make the two X-Wings that kept suddenly attacking them, destroying Star Destroyers and other ships, as well as ground installations, then quickly disappearing their top priority whenever sighted. And when they saw them, they held nothing back, sending everything they had, though they were still no match for them. Ahsoka and Anakin spent long swaths of time alone together, either hiding in the middle of nowhere in space or seeking shelter on uninhabited, or at least sparsely inhabited worlds. They became exceptionally close because of this, even closer than they were when they were master and apprentice. And they made sure to frequently meditate and duel with each other. They stayed close to Phoenix Cell, though they weren't really a part of it, intending to join any rebel cell. Instead, they roamed between all of them, with Ahsoka knowing every one of them because of her previous role. They offered advice to help whichever one they happened to be by, doing whatever was needed to maintain the strength and effectiveness of the unit. They made sure to give the information Anakin had compiled to every cell as well, at least ones in which Ahsoka knew were trustworthy and didn't have spies. Visiting every rebel cell benefited them, as they could easily stop by any of the cells to rearm or refuel when needed, and they are already familiar with them and trusted them. However, soon they felt the need to split up, that they were needed in separate places. Ahsoka felt herself being pulled to Mandalore again to help in the Mandalorian Civil War, which had recently started. Even though they didn't want help from outsiders and had refused all but Sabine, Ahsoka feels that she needs to help them and they wouldn't refuse her, seeing as she helped them before. She was right as they welcomed her with open arms. Some even saw her as a rightful Mandalore, as she had won the Darksaber from Maul back in the Siege of Mandalore. With Ahsoka's arrival on the planet, Bo-Katan and her people quickly seek around and join their cause, and Ahsoka and Bo-Katan strategize with each other on how to fight effectively, having done something similar in the Siege of Mandalore. The united Mandalorian clans fighting for them quickly vote to put Ahsoka in command, a neutral leader of the clans that has vast combat experience, including some against Mandalorians, and had proven not to have any ill intentions towards them. Bo-Katan steps up to continue to advise her in terms of her people and their fighting styles and capabilities. The battle quickly turned in their favor as Clan Saxon quickly lost allies, and by the end most stood alone besides for a few reinforcements from the Empire, with most all Mandalorians following the Darksaber. With everyone that had a claim to the Darksaber being on the same side, there was no question of competing powers, and Clan Saxon was deemed illegitimate. Anakin briefly joins Phoenix Cell and is soon called upon to help escort Mon Mothma to safety. It is our first encounter with a TIE Defender, something they knew of thanks to Anakin. Though it proved lethal and got a few of the pilots, Anakin managed to destroy it before too much damage was sustained. He is also present with Mon Mothma as the rebellion is reorganized into the Alliance to destroy the Republic above Dantooine. Briefly after that, Grand Admiral Thrawn appears over Adalon, and a fierce battle ensues. Anakin manages to distract the Imperials, allowing most of the rebels there to safely jump to hyperspace. Once that is done, under the flag of truce, he speaks to Thrawn and shakes his resolve and duty to the Emperor and Empire by telling him the truth of Palpatine, what had happened to the Jedi, and that the Imperial military was a paper tiger. Thrawn allows him to leave peacefully, and the battle ends in an Imperial victory, though the rebels suffered few losses. Later, when Thrawn learns about the Gris hegemony threatening his people and not believing in the Empire anymore, he quickly returns with them to help. He leaves some of his people to garner support for him, keep up to date with the galactic affairs, and act as spies when he returns. Even though the Mandalorian Civil War was still raging, though they were by this point fighting more Imperials than Mandalorians, Ahsoka and Anakin temporarily unite to go in search of Maul and kill him before he causes any more damage. To Anakin's dismay, his trail leads him to Tatooine, where they happen upon him and a man in a duel. They are shocked at recognizing Obi-Wan and the fact that he is heavily aged and worn. They hope Obi-Wan to defeat and kill them all, but as soon as that happens, Obi-Wan turns his blade on them, not trusting his eyes as he sees Anakin and Ahsoka. One he thought dead and the other last being seen as Sith, wearing a terrifying black suit. Ahsoka manages to talk to him though, calming him down and briefly explaining everything that had happened. Obi-Wan leads him to a small home so that they can talk more, and Ahsoka and Anakin fill him in on everything. Obi-Wan is still hesitant on believing this, but he is already near tears at having people he considered family back alive and safe. They stay with him for a couple days, catching up and meditating together. But Anakin is eager to leave the Forsaken Planet, so he and Ahsoka prepare to leave. Before they depart though, Obi-Wan tells him everything. As they had been meditating, Qui-Gon Jinn had told him that it was okay to tell Anakin that he should trust him again because they had grown stronger because they had resisted the dark side. Obi-Wan also felt the change in Anakin, both through the Force and by his actions, so he did feel that he could trust him again. Obi-Wan tells them that Yoda is on Dagobah if they need guidance, and that Padme has successfully given birth before she had died to a pair of twins. The boy Luke was on Tatooine with Anakin's relatives. It was why Obi-Wan was there, to guard him. Obi-Wan then starts telling him of the second twin, but Ahsoka finishes it for him, saying that it was Leia Organa, in the care of Bell and Breon Alderaan. Obi-Wan is shocked that she knew and asked if Bell had told her, but she shook her head and told him that she had connected the dots herself. For him that knew Anakin, it was easy to see the similarities. Anakin is too stunned to react or fully process the revelation, but he manages to thank Obi-Wan for being with Padme at the end and protecting his son. They quickly leave to rejoin the fight against the Empire, and Ahsoka quickly parts ways with Anakin, wanting to give him space to process the revelation. Ahsoka immediately rejoins the fight in the Mandalorian Civil War, eager to bring it to its conclusion that was so near. Anakin just makes it back to Phoenix Cell in Yavin 4 though, when someone reaches out to him. They are sound loyal to Grand Admiral Thrawn, and are following his orders to relay critical information to him as a friend. He told Anakin that the Empire had assembled forces for a surprise attack against Mandalore, to purge them before they could become a bigger threat, a final strike to end the conflict that would soon commence. Anakin quickly thanks him before sending word out to the rebellion of the impending attack and requesting aid to help defend Mandalore. He didn't wait to see if anyone would come though. Instead, he jumped into his X-Wing and rushed to Mandalore, fearing for Ahsoka. He managed to reach Mandalore before the attack and warn them, allowing them to start evacuating and taking shelter. News of the impending attack quickly spreads on the planet, and the few Mandalorians so loyal to Clan Saxon give up, and the remaining Imperials are swiftly dealt with. However, all too soon, as night starts to fall, an Imperial fleet appears in orbit, a scene that is reminiscent of the attack of the Jedi Temple. Anakin and Ahsoka are in orbit as well as every Mandalorian Fang fighter. They desperately engage the Imperials, trying to delay them so that the evacuation could continue. They managed to catch them off guard, scoring several early victories, but they were too outnumbered, and though they weren't losing many pilots, they couldn't compete with the swarms of fighters and bombers that kept them coming, and more were slipping through the protective fire net Anakin and Ahsoka had tried to cast over Mandalore. However, as Anakin was about to send all Fang fighters into the atmosphere to focus on protecting the Mandalorian cities, several Mon Calamari ships, frigates, and corvettes, as well as dozens of rebel fighters and bombers appeared from hyperspace behind the Imperial fleet. They quickly engaged the unprotected Imperial capital ships, who were unprepared for even the slightest resistance, and the Imperial fleet quickly starts to get dismantled. The TIE fighters and bombers stopped their relentless assault on Mandalore and turned back to assist their fleet. Ahsoka, Anakin, and the Fang fighters returned to orbit to catch every fighter and bomber that had slipped through to seek retribution for whatever damage they did, leaving the space battles to the rebels who were now under the command of Admiral Raddus. The victory was devastating and swift, the Imperials being too confident and arrogant to be much of a challenge, and the rebel fleet came out with few losses. Most of the rebel fleet disappears once the battle is over, though a few remain to help the Mandalorians. Because of this attack and the rebels' help, the Mandalorians, who had further united under Bo-Katan Kryze, vowed to help and support the rebellion in their fight against the Empire. Anakin and Ahsoka didn't get a moment to rest though, as soon as Ahsoka confirmed that Mandalorians are in good hands, they went back to help Ezra liberate his homeworld of Lothal. It was fairly easy, as Empire was still reeling from the disappearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn and their defeat over Mandalore. Because of this, as the Imperials started suffering defeats, the inexperienced Admiral quickly disengaged the fleet in orbit over Lothal and ran from the planet, abandoning the Imperial garrison to their fates. Only after that did Ahsoka and Anakin finally hear of the thing they had been searching for, the Death Star, and they learned that it recently destroyed Jedha. They quickly went to Yavin 4 and learned they might have a critical weakness, but in order to know for sure, they needed the plans for it were on Scarif. With the recent victories over Mandalore and Lothal, the rebel leaders had hope and morale was high, especially with Ahsoka and Anakin there, and they promptly made plans. First, people would infiltrate Scarif and retrieve the plans. Then, once they reached orbit again, a rebel fleet would come out and help them escape, or if necessary, destroy the shield gate first so they could escape. It was decided that Anakin would send a starfighter to help in the space while Ahsoka infiltrated the ground team with a stolen Imperial shuttle, Anakin being a better pilot and Ahsoka being better at stealth. A small group of Mandalorians joined the infiltration team as well as a few other rebels. The infiltration team successfully makes it onto Scarif with the help of the Imperial pilot that had defected, and Ahsoka lets Cassian, Jyn, and K2SO infiltrate as she stays with the other rebels. Something they failed to factor in was that because Ahsoka was a Togruta, she couldn't blend in, but she did promise them that if they needed her, then she would get to them. Ahsoka and the Mandalorians and rebels set up traps and killing fields as planned, then stayed hidden until Cassian reached out to them to create their distraction. With the Imperials lures of their presence and deploying the garrison, the rebels began battling the Imperial garrison and were surprisingly winning. Though Ahsoka and the Mandalorians had to get creative on how to destroy the AT-ATs. While Ahsoka attracted one, drawing his attention with her being a Jedi brandishing lightsabers, the Mandalorians used their jetpacks to get on top of it and board it, commandeering it. They then turned the lasers on the other walkers, who were caught off guard by the sudden and friendly fire and were quickly destroyed before they could cope with the situation. With the battle outside in their favor, Ahsoka then went alone to retrieve the group that had infiltrated as they had called for and informed her that they had run into trouble. She forges a path to them, having to cut through a vault door before reaching them, and protects them as they flee the building with the plans. All surviving members of the infiltration team board the stolen Imperial shuttle and they quickly take off. Though their unauthorized takeoff was noticed as all shuttles had been grounded, the ground command didn't have enough warning to notify for the shield gate to be closed before they escaped through it, though the Imperial fleet did get the warning and turned their guns on them. With a short message from the rebels in the shuttle, the rebel fleet appeared and engaged the Imperials. The distraction proved sufficient and the shuttle was able to jump to hyperspace with Anakin's X-Wing screening it. Once they were gone, the rebel fleet quickly disengaged and began to jump to hyperspace as well. The Death Star, which they feared so much from risking everything to destroy, appeared in orbit as the last rebel ship jumped out of the system. Back on Yavin 4, after combing through the plans, they managed to find the weak spot, a thermal exhaust port in a trench. But the good news is ruined as word from Ahsoka's intelligence network reaches them. The Death Star was on the move and headed toward Alderaan. The Empire knew that Belagorn was associated with the rebellion, but they hadn't been able to touch him as he was part of the Senate and royal family of Alderaan. Now though, Palpatine had just recently dissolved the Imperial Senate and they could wipe out a planet if they needed to get rid of protesting planes from it. The rebel leaders suspected that the Empire would use Alderaan to pressure the rebels to give up the Death Star plans, but they feared that they would likely destroy Alderaan anyway to make an example out of them. As soon as Anakin learns of this, he sets off with volunteers to go intercept it. He would not allow harm to come to his daughter, or home, or the family that loved, cared, and raised her. Ahsoka flies by his side once again for this. They knew that they had to stop it before it reached Alderaan, otherwise whether they destroyed it or it fired, Alderaan would be destroyed. Ahsoka knew that they wouldn't stop at populated worlds along the way, wanting to avoid the public eye, so she managed to find potential staging points for it. She narrowed it down further by the hyperspace lane it was likely to be using, and the coordinates from Imperial databases that were uncharted regions. Ahsoka picked the most likely place to send the coordinates to the other pilots. She was miraculously right as they exited hyperspace. They see it sitting over an unnamed moon, a few systems away from Alderaan. Anakin quickly organizes the pilots into attack formation to begin the assault. No TIE fighters were deployed at first, not until they entered the trench. The TIE fighters and the fire from the Death Star itself started devastating the rebel numbers though. So Anakin ordered everyone to break off and get a safe distance away. They complied, but Ahsoka stayed, even though Anakin insisted that she go as well, because he felt that this was his responsibility. But she refused, saying that she had vowed not to leave him. Not again. Anakin relented and they continued alone along the trench, evading fire and blasting anything that got on their way. They miraculously make it to the exhaust port intact, and, flying side by side, they launched the proton torpedoes into the chute. They both went in and Anakin and Ahsoka quickly pulled up and out of the trench, pushing their engines to the max to put as much distance between them and the Death Star as possible. However, they were still caught in the blast wave when it exploded and their X-Wings were tossed about and bombarded with debris. The fires were quickly severely damaged and the engines were devastated and they lost all power and functions as they hurled through space. All they could do was hang on and rely on the Force. They lost sight of each other almost instantly, but they clung to each other's presence in the Force, both fearing for the other. As it settled down and time passed, the other's presence kept them from getting lonely and from letting their emotions overwhelm them. They didn't know how long they stayed there, meditating in their cockpits, but Flake's corvettes appeared in the system and began making their way to them using their transponders. They got to Anakin's first, then to Ahsoka's. When they pulled Ahsoka's X-Wing into the bay, Anakin rushed to and helped pull her from the damaged fighter and wrapped her in a fierce hug. They stayed by each other until they arrived back in Yavin 4 to a hero's welcome, as the rebellion celebrated this major victory. However, soon after, for the first time in a while, Emperor Palpatine made a public appearance and rallied the Empire. He used the destruction of the Death Star to unite the Empire against the Alliance to restore the Republic, and though its effect was mixed in the Outer Rim, the closer to the core regions it got, the more radicalized the address made the people. Anakin and Ahsoka both knew that they needed to remove Palpatine in order for a true victory to be achieved.